You are listening to the Centropic Oracle, an audiobook podcast of science fiction and fantasy short stories that make you think and feel.
A Rather Remarkable Man by Alexandra Grunberg. Wallace Bluster always protested that he was the most ordinary specimen to roam the earth, but Maribel thought he was a remarkable man. She could understand why people could only see a thoroughly nondescript meteorologist when they turned on the television in the morning, wiping sleep from their eyes as they sipped on their coffee, listening for his weather prediction as he gesticulated mildly in front of a green screen. His expression was hidden behind a thick brown beard that obscured his face from chin to nose, and wide glasses that obscured his face from cheeks to forehead. And the hair left on the top of his head hid whatever secrets he kept, from his hairline to the base of his skull. The local populace appreciated, distantly, perhaps unconsciously, that his weather predictions were always correct, precisely correct, down to the inches of snow and the direction of the wind. But they would not have called him remarkable, and so none of them wore a thin band of gold with a small but beautiful diamond around their finger. Maribel noticed, consciously and fully, that his predictions were always 100% correct, and trusted his judgment and advice 100%. Aunt Bianca will try and bring up how much you weigh, warned Wallace. But she doesn't do it to be insulting, I promise. She thinks people think less of her because she's so thin, and she doesn't realise how intimidating it is. But feel free to tell her she is beautiful. Her sisters get all the compliments, and they don't appreciate it as much as she does. Wallace only owned 3 suits, and he worried that everyone noticed, but nobody noticed what he wore at all. They only cared about how many layers they had to pull on that morning, or whether school would be open or closed due to inclement weather. If any of the 4 brothers try and talk to you, ask them questions about themselves, suggested Wallace. My cousins are always trying to one-up each other. It will quickly turn into a fight about which one is the most successful, the strongest, the smartest, and you can slip away without them even noticing. Maribel noticed how an impending nor'easter made Wallace mumble if the damage would be deadly. She noticed how a thunderstorm would be manageable if Wallace tugged his beard, and how it would lead to car accidents and fatalities if he adjusted his glasses. She spent her mornings adjusting the latest local news on her desk, pretending to make notes as she scribbled nonsense circles with her pen while she watched Wallace predict the weather. She noticed how he smiled when he caught her looking at him, and it hindered her ability to read the teleprompter. Don't tell any secrets to Granny Una, Wallace instructed. She can't keep a secret. She will spread it through the whole family and onward until it's reached every member of the community and beyond. Wallace warned her about his family every day leading up to the wedding. He warned her about their temperaments and quirks, but failed to warn her about their unusual powers and abilities and supernatural otherworldliness. Wallace worried that she would see the snow-soft skin of Aunt Bianca, her dress of icy crystals and hair of threaded hail, and she would throw her ring at his feet as she shivered her retreat out of the church. He worried that she would be bombarded by the gusts of the disembodied brothers of air as they fought to be the dominant wind, and would scream as her dress was torn to pieces. She would quake and despair under the draining gaze of Grandma Una, and she would flee before another minute of her life could be sucked out of her. But Maribel did not run. She stood beside him as the front of the cathedral rained, as the aisle froze over, as the winds broke the stained glass, and as the pews shimmered with heat. She exchanged vows and exchanged rings, and smiled as the church erupted with applause and thunder and earthquakes. Wallace's family was extraordinary, but she would have expected nothing else from such a remarkable man. And Maribel knew there was no reason to be afraid, because that morning Wallace predicted that the future held only fair weather, and she knew that his predictions were always correct.
We hope you enjoyed A Rather Remarkable Man by Alexandra Grunberg, read by Raymond. If you'd like to learn more about the author and narrator of this story, or make a donation to them, follow the story page link in the description. If you would like to submit a story for consideration or apply to be a narrator, a link to our submission guidelines is in the description. This story is copyrighted 2020 by the Centropic Oracle.